Welcome back to ZMS Esports Studio, your home for all things virtual cycling and virtual racing. Speaking of racing, today we take on team time trial once again on IndieVelo. And where will our teams be contending today? Well, let's take a look. They will be tackling the reverse coastal loop on IndieVelo's proprietary Velo Island. It's a 16-kilometer course with only 41 meters of climbing, so quite a flat course and one where we might see the sprinters come to bear, but will we see the rollers put in the big challenge? Time will find out. And speaking of those team members, those contenders, who are the teams that will be contending today? Well, we have Race 3R Wiggles, we have the Australia umbrella of team, which is Dingoes, Koalas, PD, CC and Wombats. We have Poco Motion Virtual, Team Electric Spirit Co, currently the team to beat, RGT France, Barrington Bicycle Club, West London Virtual Racing, or WLVR for short, and the OTR umbrella of teams, which includes Black, Blue, Eureka, UV, Wicked, and Wicked Dev. So a lot of teams today, and a lot of chances to usurp the Team Electric Spirit Co. So with that said, how do things currently stand? Well, we are standing on our start line, ready to roll. And you can see the Australia teams denoted by Oz, which is humorously to me spelt the literary way, as in the Wizard of Oz, and not the O-U-S way, A-U-S, sorry. So with just 10 seconds to go, those team members will be feeling the anxiety begin to build as they're preparing to push down on that lead pedal, step up into the saddle and clip in on their secondary leg, if you will. So we're off, and we've seen those big surges off the front. A great start by all teams here. And we can start with the Australia Dingoes. So we're seeing Chris Morgan and Noel, who are familiar names if you've followed some of the other series that we cover here on ZMS Esports Studio. And they are quite skilled rollers, arguably leaning a little bit more towards sprinting, and they're putting in some solid effort to really push ahead. But it looks like they have a Frenchman joining them, J.M. Pontier, who is really holding his own as the engine at the lead of the team right now, with Marco Murphy pushing forward to take over a quite nice, arguably pace line here. And it looks like real short stays on the front, swapping very frequently. So this is an interesting tactic and one that we'll follow as we get deeper into today's race. By the way, you can follow along with the rider that we are currently watching. So if you look at the right hand side of your screen, you will see a small soap bar menu with a name that is highlighted in green. That is who we are currently watching. If you then look to the top center of your screen, you'll see the wattage coming out of said rider, the RPM, which is cadence, and then you also see BPM, ergo heart rate. And we're currently following Alistair Evans, who's putting down some phenomenal power there, almost breaking 400 watts consistently for his short time on the front. And it looks like Australia PDCC are doing slightly longer stays on the front and sticking more rigidly to a pace line as they really push ahead. Lawrence Black really pushing strong there at the front. RGT France, which does not stand for Ride Grand Tours, it stands for Riders du Givre, and I'm struggling to remember what the last initial is. So a good pace line here. It looks like their secondary ready to push ahead on the RGT is holding close on the left, ready to push ahead, which is a fairly good tactic to have. We've got OTR Black here, who are doing more of a bunchy, where they have slightly less riders on the course today. So it looks like they're doing that to maximize their draft benefit, while Tony is pushing ahead. But pushing ahead like that is going to deny draft benefit to the riders behind. So hopefully they can catch on pretty strong. And who are the team of OTR Black? Well, going left to right, we have Peter Brock-Wevel, we have Per Zoderberg, we have Tony Simons and Keith Aitchinson. And a wonderful array of countries represented there. We had the UK, Spain, and Sweden. WLVR, a team that I am a part of. I haven't taken part in Triple T or Team Time Trial for the uninitiated in quite a while now, but we have GT on course. GT is an absolute powerhouse and is currently pushing to the front. So with GT on course, we can expect WLVR to hold their own. Very much a roll, yeah. And a very strong one at that. So race 3R Wiggles, again holding a little bit more true to a pace line here. And they are currently letting Jan Vanner hold his own with Jonathan Geddes pushing strong to the front there. And that is a very nice, very surgical pace line as we're beginning to really get deeper into this course now. And we can see that Jan Vanner was breaking 300 watts, so a nice strong power being pushed through those crank arms. OTR Blue, so familiar names again if you watch any of the race series here on ZMS Esports Studio on the various virtual cycling platforms that we cover. So that includes Gordon Jackson, Peter Austin, and Stephen Bellio. And again, going for a bunchy where they're a smaller array of riders on course to maximize draft benefit rather than going for that pace line. But talking about pace lines, we are with OTR UV here. Again, with familiar names to you like Neil Walker, Tony Martin, Lutz Ploiter, and Frank Healy. Nice speed here, holding very true to that optimal 40 kilometers per hour, and really holding there quite steady right now. So we have to see how that progresses as we get deeper into today's team time trial. And a new team to the league, Barrington Bicycle Club, with Ryan Adelot, Scott Marcotte, Daryl Racky, Tom Kramer, and Edwin Montoya. And an interesting thing with IndieVelo here is if you do not have a cadence meter connected either through a smart trainer, that's a baked-in cadence meter, or one of those ones that you can attach to your outside, which is to say your left-hand side crank arm, which is a Bluetooth Ant Plus cell battery powered one, then your avatar will not appear to be pedaling, even though you very much are pedaling. So that's what we were seeing there on two of the riders with Barrington Bicycle Club. But for now, we are with OTR Eureka, Stephen Blackwell, another familiar name to those of you who watch and follow the many race leagues that we cover here on ZNS Esports Studio. Rob Steenholt currently holding that front position, that engine position, but again, with those four riders on course, or maybe five, my apologies, they are going with the peloton, that kind of bunchy, if you will, more than a pace line. Again, looking at a way of maximizing the amount of riders forward and the amount of draft benefit to those behind. Hopefully they're going to look at switching and swapping around to maximize that as an actual verifiable tactic as we get deeper into today's race. OTR Wicked here, and they are just reaching the minimum of 3 riders on course. So if you are unfamiliar with how this works, what the rules are for the team time trial on IndieVelo, The final time is recorded as the third rider across the line. So OTR Wicked just breaking that ground there with the 3 riders, as are OTR Wicked Dev with Shane Blackmore, another familiar name. We've got Andy Macca, again a familiar name, and Little Chris. I'm going with more of a pace line here, which is interesting for a 3-man setup. There's going to be lots of turns on the front for each of them, and they are going to feel it, I'm afraid. Australia Wombats here, Jeff Tiffett, Melissa Fanning, Craig Dole, and Kat Coleman. And again, going with more of a pace line. The Aussies certainly are good at this, holding a very surgical pace line as we progress through. And Australia Koalas, looks like Dave is losing that rear wheel ahead. Hopefully you can catch on. And again, as you can see there, that's the evidence of what I was previously discussing about having a cadence meter attached to the game. It does show your avatar is not pedaling, unfortunately, even though, like I say, you very much are. So we can also see the current kilometers covered on the left-hand side there. And we can see that being ebbed away, so that's counting down to 0. And so you can really get a gauge of who is really crunching through those crank arms, really putting the sting into their quads and their glutes, and really putting everything they've got into their chain today. And we're currently following JM Pontier on the Australia Dingoes, and look at that, a phenomenal amount of wattage as power that he's holding on the front there, as is Lawrence Black for the Australia PDCC. And look at those pace lines on the Australia teams. Really great stuff there. And the Oz PDCC holding each other's rear wheel very, very well as they cross that halfway split. So that our arch here denoting that we are halfway through today's course. And so it is a freeway race. It's a freeway fight between RGT France, Australia PDCC, and Australia Dingoes. So RGT France have really pushed up since we were last covering Team Time Trial on ZMS Esports Studio, and they are doing a phenomenal effort. And we're with WLVR here, Mark Hughes, they were really pushing ahead. Lutz Ploiter, really pushing ahead there. And so this is OTR UV crossing that halfway mark. Barrington Bicycle Club doing very well for a new team to the league. And our 2 OTR teams as they close in on that halfway mark, allowing us to then take a look at how things currently stand. Team Time Trial, of course, is who is the fastest and who has covered the most ground in the least amount of time, and that's what we are soon to find out. Craig Dole here leading the charge for Australia Wombats as they cross that halfway split. OTR Devs, Shane Blackmore looking to cross that line first. And Australia Koalas, Michelle Williams, Bryce Sturman and Dave Hayes. here on course to make that free rider minimum. So how can you watch our races on ZMS Esports Studio? You can find us by searching ZMS Esports Studio on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And at the halfway split, we can take a look at how things currently stand. And you can place your bets in the comments as to who's going to take it. Is there going to be any usurping here? So we have Australia Dingoes. They are currently the fastest at 10 minutes 14 to cover half of our course, so that would be 8 kilometers. We have Australia PDC at 10 minutes 20. We have RGT France in third place at 10 minutes 24. We have OTR Black in fourth place, 10 minutes 38, and OTR Blue to round out our top 5 at 10 minutes 42. So there is a lot of contention between the top 5 there. And it's going to be interesting to see how those positions, how those placements change as we cross the finish line. But for now, I can see, looking at our many windows here, that we have some fierce effort going through those crank arms. And Australia Dingoes are still pushing ahead, as you can see by looking at our chart on the left-hand side of your screen there, where we can see the kilometer distance remaining. They are pushing very strong. Look at that, almost touching 50 kilometers per hour. And that does really touch on that point I said about Chris Morgan and Noel being those really phenomenal sprinters. They've certainly got it in them to really hold that speed as well. And that's where you can see that Rollier side of them coming out. So there are 3 types of riders, 3 distinctions of riders in road cycling. And that would be climber, rollier, and sprinter. There are more when you talk about the Grand Tours, but in general, we look at those 3. And rollier is your all-rounder. The other 2 are pretty self-explanatory. And Australia PDCC. So they are pushing on very strong here. They're also touching 50 kilometers per hour and still looking to reassemble that pace line. And it looks like they must be doing that tactic of taking short turns on the front and short rest periods. OTR Black here. We've got Per Zuckerberg currently on that lead position, really pulling the team forward. And it looks like that halfway split has really inspired our teams to really surge over that 45 kilometer per hour mark. And like I say, you can see evidenced the very flat nature of our course today. If you look at the top right hand side of your screen, if you look to the top right hand side of that soap bar window that shows our map and our position in relation to said map, you can see the percentile gradient, and it is consistently hovering around 0. And WLVR here, we've got Alex Gold taking the lead there, really pulling the team along, looking to get that kilometer per hour average up. Jonathan Geddes for race 3R Wiggles, holding strong on the front there, and switching out with Frederick Foulon. OTR Blue, so we've got Peter Austin on that lead position. Looks like they're about to do a switch to give Peter some rest, but again, everyone on course here looking to get and stay above that 45 kilometer per hour mark. OTR UV, we've got Tony Lake, Roger Whittle, Frank Healy, Neil Walker, and Lutz Blater, and they're holding quite consistent here. I'm hoping that they're taking the rest here, looking to really crunch those crank arms as we get closer to that end. And we don't have very long left. We're getting sub 5 kilometers for all of our teams here. And we're just about touching 2 kilometers on our lead team, who are doing a phenomenal effort. Barrington Bicycle Club, again, phenomenal effort for a introductory team to the league. And OTR Eureka, the American arm of OTR, the USA arm, if you will, holding consistent in a small peloton there again to evenly distribute that draft benefit, and hopefully switching out that lead position to give some rest as well. And OTR Wicked, again looking to optimize by being in more of a bunch, more of a peloton if you will. And the sister team, OTR Wicked Dev, Andy Mecca really pulling out for the team there and giving what surge he can to really push the team along. Australia Wombats, so we've got Jeff Tippett currently in that lead position, Kat Coleman. It looks like we've got 2 other riders struggling to get onto those rear wheels. Hopefully they will catch on, because again, it's that third rider that is all important for crossing that finish line and securing that time. Koalas with Michelle Williams currently holding that lead position for the team. And it looks like they're going to form a pace line for the final couple of kilometers here. Even rear wheel to front wheel behind. And we're under 1 kilometer. We don't have a flamme rouge today, a red flame. The red arch, that would be your denotation of 1 kilometer remaining, both in the real world and in many of the virtual cycling platforms out there today. So the Australia Dingoes, look at that, they are just firing along. We've got Noel in that lead position, and they are very, very much breaking 50 kilometers per hour here. Phenomenal effort, and we're seeing touching 400 watts frequently. Absolutely fantastic stuff, and they absolutely have this in the bag. There was a contention there between Australia PDCC and Dingoes, but Dingoes have it. Fantastic stuff. And speaking of PDCC, we've got Alistair Evans going for that finish line sprint. And I'm sure, much like his virtual counterpart in the real world, he was probably in his straps and pushed up out the saddle and really just standing through those crank arms to sprint over that finish line. RGT France and OTR Black, they are very neck and neck here. We can see those meters counting down. Wow, I would not want to guess who's going to take this. Are we going to see a finish line sprint from OTR Black? Oh wow, just about in the bag for RGT France over OTR Black. But that was a nail biter if ever I saw one. WLVL, we've got Alex Gould going for that finish line sprint. And again, a contention here. Will somebody be able to really search for race-free Wiggles? No, it is WLVR who secured that with that fantastic sprint from Alex Gould there. OTR Blue, 3-man team. Can they bunch up to get a good time together? I mean, that's not a bad time regardless. And we've got OTR UV here, looking to bunch up as close as they can to get that really good time. You want to make sure there's not even microns of seconds in it. You really want to attach onto that rear wheel ahead. There we go, and 3 riders shoulder to shoulder crossing that finish line, really standardizing that time, if you will. Barrington Bicycle Club, again, they'll be looking to really attach onto each other's rear wheels for that finish line sprint. So it looks like they have lost a couple of riders, but they still have a 3-man team here, which means that they will secure that time from the 3 riders who are just closing in and crossing that finish line. As we round that all familiar corner, and we see our riders here surging to break that 50 km/h mark. And there we go. and OTR Eureka, so the USA arm of OTR. We have a stealth Brit, like the many actors in Hollywood who successfully play Americans. He's a stealth Brit hidden amongst the Americans. And we are following Stephen Blackwell here, in fact, who will be hoping to catch onto that rear wheel for crossing the finish line. And there we go. The three riders have secured that time. OTR Wicked, Sean Lavelle, again another familiar name if you follow any of the race series we cover here on ZMS Esports Studio, as well as Andrew Street, in fact, as they cross that finish line to secure their time. There's a lot of three-man teams out on the course today. And our riders here, interestingly, looking like they're trying to keep shoulder to shoulder, again to have that standardized time, to try and shave off those hundredths or even thousandths of a second. And as I say that has passed, and they are rear wheel to front wheel. Australia Wombats, a little bit strung out here. That will add on some hundredths of a second from the lead rider. But is that all that bad? I don't think so. And last but not least, Koalas. 800 meters in it, as Michelle Williams takes that lead engine position, if you will. And I must say, very impressive stuff from WLVR there. A lot of training seems to have gone into that to really bring that time up from what we saw last time we covered Team Time Trial. And I will absolutely say the same thing for RGT France. We saw a team there that was in the lower rankings, and they've really trained very hard and really pulled up into that top 3 position. So very, very well done there to all those teams that have really push themselves with a lot of training, because that will be a lot of training to really get that strength, to really push your speed up, to really push your power numbers up, and that has very clearly paid off. So very well done. And our final 3 riders are just mere meters from crossing that finish line and bringing to a close today's Team Time Trial. And speaking of that close, let's take a look at their finished. So Australia Dingoes holding very strong, holding that lead position, not leaving anything to chance, with a very impressive even 20 minutes for 16 kilometers. That is phenomenal effort to make that happen, as is such to get 20 minutes from E1 for that second place position from Australia PDCC, holding very strong on that third place position, and again not leaving anything to chance against OTR Black. It's RGT France with 20 minutes 44 seconds. In that fourth place position we have got OTR Black, 20 minutes 46, so only 2 seconds in it between them and RGT France. And dashing the hopes of OTR Blue of being in that top 5, WLVR, West London VR, round up the top 5 with 21 minutes and 8 seconds. So since we were last here, a lot has changed since we last covered Team Time Trial. So how do things look since we were last here? Well, we've got League One, which is now being held in that top position by Australia Dingoes, and the team when we last were here, that was the team to beat, have dropped down to that relegation position in League One, which is the Electric Spirit Co. RGT France are in that second place position, and again, very well done on all the training and effort that's gone into really surging ahead to that position. We've got League 2 with Australia PDCC, who are holding that top position in green, which denotes that they are ripe for promotion into League 1. We have WLVR, and again, great work to my fellow teammates there on really putting in that training to really push up from last time we saw them. In the demotion position for League 2, we have the Poco Motion and a new team to the race series, the Team Time Trial Race Series on IndieVelo. Barrington BC are in the promotion position in League 3, so very well done on that. So, wonderful stuff. You'll have to join us next week to see how these positions may change. And in saying that, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for listening to me waffle on about cycling for quite a while here. You have been a wonderful audience. My name's been Mark. Have a wonderful day.